everyone, I'm Sophie and you're watching Sophie at Stanford. And so as a current Stanford student, something that I get asked all the time is how did you do the college applications, what you do, what's the process, how did it all work, what did you personally do for your app, and all this sort of thing. And so I thought that this week and next week I was going to help you guys out, and I'm going to have a little 2-week sequence where I'm just talking about the whole college application process. And so this week I'm going to be focusing on the logistics of the application and just what are all the moving pieces, what do you actually have to do as a practical matter in order to apply for college. And then next week I'm going to focus on strategic tips and also just some personal advice, so stay tuned for that. But first, make sure you are subscribed, and so go ahead and click the subscribe button below and also click the bell for notifications so that way you can make sure that you see my next video. And so now let's get into it. So first, the way I think about the college applications, for the majority of schools, the application is divided into 3 sections. Section 1, recommendation letters. Section 2, the common app portion that you can use for all of your schools. And then section 3 is the individual school portions. Be aware though, if you're applying to any schools that do not use the common application because they have an entirely different timeline that you want to make sure that you're following. But for most schools, they use the common application. So with the recommendation letters, generally the idea is that you ask some teachers to write your recommendations, they upload the recommendations to the common application, and then you can check the boxes for which teacher's recommendations you want to send to each school. And so you can't have a teacher write your recommendations saying, so-and-so really wants to go to Stanford, so-and-so really wants to go to Harvard, so-and-so really wants to go to Yale, and have a bunch of variations of the recommendation. So the teacher recommendation has one recommendation per teacher, they upload it to the common app, and then you check the boxes for which schools you want to send each recommendation letter to. And so the standard for different schools is usually have 2 recommendations. There are some schools that allow to have a 3rd recommendation, and there's probably other schools that have different policies of how many recommendations they want. I think 2 recommendations is pretty standard. When I went through, I only had 2 recommendations. Moving on to parts of the college application that you personally have to fill out. With the Common App, there's one section that you fill out that gets seen by all of the schools that you're applying to, which use the Common Application. And this is most schools again, so you can't have your Common App essay be talking about, oh, my dream school is really this one, because what happens if you don't get into that school, all of the other schools now know, well, you were my backup plan. And so this main section of your application will be seen by all of the schools you're applying to that use the Common Application, which is going to be most of them, most likely. And so the next thing to keep in mind is that there's a lot of different small parts that you probably want to start thinking about early. These are all available online, and so you can go looking around at the specific questions, so I'm just going to focus on a few of the bigger parts. So one part of this is your Common Application essay. The prompts for this usually get released like the summer before application season starts, but the prompts don't change that much year to year, so if you want to start thinking about it earlier than that, you totally can. I like to give myself as much time as possible to think about my essays, and so that's me. Another part that's very big, that I'm sure you know about by now, is test scores. And so there is going to be a spot where you type in, these are what my test scores are, and then you'll individually have to send your test scores to the various schools so that way they have concrete proof that you weren't faking it at all. Another key part of your application process is your grades. And so there's one spot where I believe that you type in what your grades are, but you're also going to need an official letter from your school counselor person who sends it into the school to say, this is an official transcript, this student was not lying about the grades that he or she received. Moving on to the individual school portions. So now, on your Common Application, there's a tab for each of the different schools you're applying to, and on that tab are the portions of your application that you have to fill out that are specific to that school. So anything that you put on this portion of the application only goes to that school. Each individual school can do whatever they want for this part of the application. Sometimes they'll have optional parts and required parts, and so you really want to make sure that you've gone through the application for each school you're looking at to make sure you understand what each individual school requires. Then for School Dream School, they will see the teacher recommendations, Common Application that will be again seen by all of your schools, and they will also see the parts of the application that are on the little tab for that school. And now finally moving along into the timeline of when do you do all these different parts of your college application. There's 2 different types of applying for college that you can do, early and regular. If you're applying to a school early, that means that you're sending in your application in mid to late October. If you're doing regular, then you're going to be submitting your applications in December. And so if you're applying to a school early, oh, and again, there are some schools that have their own calendar. If you apply early, acceptance rate is generally higher, and you also hear back from the schools sooner, both of which are a plus. However, you cannot apply early to all of the schools because there are 3 different types of applying early that you can do. There's early action, which just means that you just apply to the school early and nothing happens with it. Just beyond that, you just apply early. And then you can still apply to other schools early, and so it's great. You just apply early. There's also something called restricted early action, which is what Stanford had, which means you cannot apply to any other school early, but if you get accepted, you aren't required that you must attend Stanford. It just means you can't apply to anywhere else early. The third type of applying early is called early decision. And so if you get accepted to this school that you applied to early decision, you must go there. You can't apply to any other schools. You're just accepted to that school, you're done, your place is locked in. So now, next question that I've gotten from some people is why would you ever do early decision or restricted early action instead of early action? The answer is that the schools tell you which one is allowed. You don't decide. And so if you want to apply to Stanford early, you must do restricted early action. So that's it for this video. I really hope it was helpful for you. Definitely leave me some comments below if you have any more questions about the application process. Again, I have another video coming up with more common application process questions and strategies and personal advice coming next week. And so definitely stay tuned for that. It's going to be coming on next Thursday. And so I'll see you in my next video. Again, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications. And I'll see you next time. Bye!